Hello, adventurer. It's good to see you. You have made it to the morning grind.
Welcome, welcome.
It's the live stream at the beginning of the Geekverse, where we talk about all types of topics in geekdom, gaming, and fantasy, with an emphasis on being constructive and creating the things that we want to exist in the world.
It's all on the grind, Sizemore. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
That's exactly right. There are a lot of adventures to be had today. Dungeons to explore and monsters to slay, and who knows what a random encounter might send our way. That's why we have to prepare, so settle in now for the morning grind with your favorite beverage in hand.
Tea? Or maybe something a little stronger. I've got a few bottles of the old Wynyard left.
Whatever you want. Pull up a chair.
Dude.
If you're feeling fancy, how about a cappuccino? Or a frappuccino? Or how about an espresso?
Just tea, thank you.
Sounds good to me, Gandalf. Whatever you want. I'm just glad you're here.
Everyone is welcome. You can just watch if you want. You don't have to worship anything you don't want to worship.
Thank you, Mike. But be forewarned.
Sometimes we get really strange characters around here.
Wait, what's that you say? Why can't you come and be a part of the stream?
My wife would disown me.
Oh no, I bet she'll be fine with it. Come on in.
Am I scared for my safety? No.
What are we supposed to do?
Everybody do the secret handshake.
Secret cultist handshake.
Oh, now do wizards who love each other.
This, my friend, is a science.
I still don't have gills, but it's fine.
It's all on the grind, son. Can't be too fine, can't be too coarse.
Dude, this would be a sick place to bring the band.
Indeed it would be, Dave. It really would. I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. Glad to have you here. Oh, look, here's someone new.
Is this the cultist meetup?
Yes it is.
Come to hang out? Please accept me. I have nothing else.
Okay, we accept you. Everyone's welcome here.
Brought some snacks.
Well, that makes things even better.
You want some coffee? I don't drink coffee. You sure? It's cultist coffee. What makes it cultist coffee? I'm a cultist and I'm drinking it. Oh. Then I'll have some.
What exactly is going on here?
I'm seeing more people coming in. Welcome. It's so great to have you. Oh, and look, here comes another stranger.
Can we help you?
Yes, fellow cultists. I could really use some food.
Oh yeah? Welcome. We have donuts.
Oh, it's me. I'm glad I'm here. I'm sure you have a few questions for me, though.
What's your name? Who do you work for? What god do you worship?
Great questions, Rob.
I'm Steve King, and I worship Nyarlathotep.
No, not really. I'm just Heath, and I won't be worshiping anything this morning. But I will be your host. Welcome to the office. We're going to have a great time. I've got my coffee ready, because now it's time for the morning grind.
If you could become a fish, that would be amazing. Then I could command you with my mental fish powers.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good morning. It is great to have you here. Welcome to my home. Welcome to the office, and welcome to the morning grind. There's been a lot of fun stuff going on. Hey, and last night, James Bacon and I had a conversation on the Table Talk channel. It had been a while since we've done a Table Talk because I'd been working on these other projects and needed the time, but it was good to get back to Table Talk. So if you have not seen True Detective Season 1, well, if you haven't seen True Detective Season 1, you absolutely should. This is with Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson, and it does have Lovecraftian elements in it. And so that's why I was kind of thinking about it in terms of what's going on with the cultists, because we did a replica. We did a nod to that show by making a replica prop about True Detective and putting it in the Cultist Season 1. And I did a video where we could explicitly look at the prop, the replica flyer. There's a flyer that is ostensibly for the Church of the Yellow King in True Detective. And so we replicated that and put it in the Cultist. I did a video on that over on the Cultist's YouTube channel. And whenever I get watching that show, I can't stop. So James Bacon and I watch. I've watched the show several times. James Bacon's watching for the first time. There are only 8 episodes. I thought there were 9, but I think there were only 8. But we watched the first 3 episodes and then had a discussion last night. And I dual streamed it on both the Table Talk channel and the Cultist channel. So getting us kind of warmed up to go to the Cultist and Kickstarter. So first of all, if you hadn't seen that, that is, if you haven't seen the show, go watch the show. And then if you have seen it and haven't seen our discussion last night, it was fantastic. And it's a character study, I think, first and foremost. And James nailed some of the character aspects. And I went and watched another episode last night after the show again, after our discussion. And James was completely bang on with the representations of some of the characters. So good morning, James. James is right here. Good morning. PH is here. Good morning. Listening in. Good morning. Jason here. Good morning. Good morning. Yep, let's do it. We have Kampa. Balin Kampa. Welcome. Welcome. Good morning. Says snowy here today. It is rainy here today. Hey, have we seen in the comments before? Hey, let me sip to you. Welcome, welcome. Great to see you. Good morning, Mike and Brett. Let's see. Oh, Cybersloth says, I just recently started OSE. Immediately, I noticed one thing from 5e. My players have had much less to manage and were making snappier decisions. That's one of the things that I don't like about 5e. Yeah, that there's so much stuff to go on. In fact, we're going to look at making sure that we're not doing too much, like too many player abilities on one thing I got in here. But, turns just take so long in 5e, or they can. I mean, a lot of the times when I was at the table, they take a long time. And you got all of this stuff. So there we go. At GMing, so this is Crit, the online game convention. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. It says BGD has 9 games currently scheduled to run at Crit in June. I hope you, Heath Sable, are able to join some of those sessions this year. Have a great new cosmic horror game. Excellent. Okay, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to be going out of town the week after that, and I got to prepare for all of that. But I'm looking forward to being a part of it. Okay, so what has been going on? I have been trying to get ready because I want to run a Kickstarter, start running the Cultist Kickstarter in about a week. So, I mean, that's going to be happening pretty soon. So there's some things that I've got to take care of. I got to go back over the Kickstarter page that's on the list for today to make sure that everything is current. And I know there needs to be some updates. So that's going to be happening today. Whereas also I will, especially because I have been working on laying out the Cultist book. I decided, this was yesterday, I believe it was, to really dive into Adobe Illustrator. I've got the Adobe Creative Suite. I use Illustrator. I want to use Character Animator for a new project that I've got. So I've been hanging on to the character, to the suite. And I was like, hey, let's, it's time to really get in and lay out this book. Hey, Michael. Yeah, I'm thinking about, I got to get BGD some information, but I'm planning on running one of the Cultist RPG games at the at Crit. So hopefully I will be GMing it. And so I have bounced off InDesign a couple of times. For some reason, however it operates isn't the way that my brain initially operated. But I think I got over that hurdle. I was like, I just have to get, I mean, I know Adobe stuff. So it's like, why is InDesign being so difficult for me? So in fact, I could probably bring it up. But I kind of got going with it. And of course, this is going to be a really powerful tool for doing the game design and things like that. And I also now kind of understand why people are building, like Kelsey, are building the rule book in InDesign. In the future, I mean, I do love writing in Scrivener, but I'm understanding getting stuff into InDesign a bit faster because, well, this is what will actually be going to the printer. So I started getting all this laid out, and so this is not final at all. I need to sit here and work on this some more. So Kickstarter and layout, or Kickstarter pages and layouts, are a big task for me today. But it's not going to be a whole lot of fun for you guys to sit here and watch me try to, click around, especially at my level of understanding of InDesign at the moment, trying to click around and make sure this happens. But I was excited because it actually looks like it's happening now. So, when you're talking about making a book or something like that, I was like, okay, well, the layout's still on the list. So this is happening. But now here's the problem. Here's the thing that I realized as I was starting to work on the layout. The original idea, this is scope creep in all things. And this is something also that I've got to work on this year. Like, okay, there's a lot of projects that I want to get done and that have been on the list for a while. And well, maybe one of the reasons that I can't get them done is because of scope creep. Originally, what I was trying to do, and I am still working on this idea with the world primers, so we will see. But hey, Fate had this really cool 9x6 little book. This is just the Fate accelerated book. It's just 9x6. It's black and white on the interior. It's only 48 pages. It's designed to be sold, rather cheaply to introduce you to Fate. It's a completely playable game. I like it. It's a nice size little book here. And I was like, hey, well, I should be doing like world primers and stuff in this like 48 page 9x6 format, especially since that's a format that can be taken to drive-through RPG and printed on demand, so that I can, have different rule sets and things like that and get started without trying to do, offset printing costs and things like that. And then I thought, oh, well, also like the Cultists can have its own little RPG that's kind of in this format. But as I started laying this out, and I know that, this font size may not be, the final and all that, but as I started putting this in here, I quickly realized that, okay, everything that I did to write this last year is considerably more than that book. So that's another reason to go ahead and get it into InDesign faster, because it's like, okay, if the product is supposed to be 48 pages, let's make sure that it doesn't actually become so many more. Because here we are on page 74, 75, started to lay out the characters from the show in here. We're going on to page 93, 97, 103, 105. Where are we? Okay, so we're right here. We're at page 122 right now. So whatever I did, and we did jointly here on the show, this is a much larger kind of project than I had realized that it was at all. So, I mean, that's fine. The Cultist is worth it. The Cultist is a big project, but in order to I got other projects I want to do that associate a story and a YouTube channel with game material. Going to have to really control the scope of projects right here. So as it turns out, let's see. So as it turns out, this is more like this. Fate also produced, or Evil Hat also produces books in this format. This is a hardcover format, and this book is, okay, well, this is 184 pages long. That may be their next size up. But nonetheless, this book, the Cultist book is something more like this, which means also that I'm potentially going to look at it as making this a hard copy. Because you can do that through the drive-through RPG as well. Make this a hard copy book since it's larger. And it'll be a bit nicer. So it's kind of unexpectedly what I ended up producing, which is still a perfectly reasonable size for the Cultists. It's not exactly, in the future, I may be like, hey, everybody, if I don't control this, come and check out my Rules Light RPG right here. Okay, well, so we're going to try to keep that under control. But that does mean that I think some of the ideas that we were going to add into this book, or add in potentially as like a stretch goal or something as part of a player's pack, I don't think that should happen that way anymore, because it's not like the book is short and then there's this, some extra things to be added on through a player's pack on like individual sheets. because I think that is actually a good way to do stretch goals, because that way you can have the book laid out and finished, especially if you're doing offset printing. And then if you hit stretch goals, then there are additional sheets like on cardstock that go into like a player's pack with additional information. I think that's a pretty good way of doing that, actually. But in this case, based on where I am with the layout and stuff, and being that, hey, let's just make this a kind of all-in-one book then, since it's larger, then what we do is we, during the Kickstarter campaign, create those new things that we want to create live on stream together and whatever, but actually put them directly into this layout, so they'll actually be printed into the book. I think we can do that. Yes, yes. Time to call in your most trusted merciless editors. It's true. Yeah, it's true. So hopefully, I was also thinking, I'm glad, okay, actually my doing this is saving time and money, but somebody else may be able to come in with a bit more like graphic design kind of eye here. And maybe, but I'm trying to get it all in there and basically there. Make the stretch goal a compendium of optional rules and splat beyond the core rule set, printed and bound as a separate volume. I mean, could do that. Because then that would be much more like a little soft cover like this is. So anyway, that's what's going on. Yeah, put the material there. Yeah, so it's either going in one or that's probably a good idea. There was going to be a little player's pack or whatever that has like the pre-generated characters printed out on cardstock, because they're going to be in the book right here, but then they'll be in cardstock, and then also some character sheets, and so that would also be a good place to put some additional content and on cardstock. But I don't know, we'll see. So that's where I am. So there's no point in just like watching me click around that in the morning. We'll work on material and we'll put it in one way or another. Tonight we have Brianna's director material. Brianna's, I forget which episode we're on with Brianna, maybe episode 9, at 7:00 p.m. today on the Cultist channel. Brianna, I'm going to release Brianna's next director's commentary video. And then after that, my plan is to have like a creative stream where we work on painting, because I realized that I need to paint up the miniatures that I have here for the Cultists. I started that project and then I guess I never finished it. And I realized, I need to take some pictures for the Kickstarter. And I want to make a little video, like a little 30-second video like I did about the shirts, about the miniatures. And so there's a Cantha right there. So tonight I am going to, we'll watch, do a live watch party of the Cultists season 1. And I'll get the auxiliary camera hooked up like I do for those streams. It's been a while. And then do some painting. So if you need an excuse to do some painting or want to do something creative with us tonight, well, we'll do that for about an hour and a half after the show. So maybe starting about 7:15 tonight Central Time, or 7:10 or something, after Brianna's director's commentary premieres. And then, so I need to get those painted so that tomorrow I can photograph them and put them where they need to go. So that is what is happening on that side of things. So I've got several different cultist activities planned for the next 3 weeks. But today I figured we would go back and continue working on the Rabivania stuff. So there was a lot of messages, but there's a lot going on. Let's see. Do I have this up? Yeah, I do. Okay. So I thought we would continue looking at the OSE conversion here for these different classes. And then it's also going to be time to, later after the Kickstarter, but I'm interested to put this into InDesign now and figure out, okay, exactly what have I done? Because it's kind of difficult for me to estimate page or word count right now, because I have in it, material for here's the 5e knight, Here's the OSE knight. What I started to try to figure out, maybe something for the easy D6 knight or something. So the word count of this document is no longer the word count of what would actually go into any particular book. Because I may have overestimated the amount of material that can go into that size book. I don't know. We're just gonna have to see. But it will soon be time to put this into the layout once I get a bit better with it and see. Okay, how much is this? How much is this? How much material is this? Because it is just intended to be the world primer. It's not intended to be the whole world book. I thought, hey, we can get the world primer out. We were talking about the knight yesterday, and I did go through here, and I started to pull some of the material from the advanced game into this, and this because this doesn't require a whole lot of modification. The big thing is that, well, they're not going to be flying. Now, actually, the mice do. Yeah, I'm sure it is. Like, and it would like it's probably. Like I said, that's probably what I need to do. Is even though I'll lay it out like basically, but then maybe somebody else who has a graphic design background, can come through and actually make it look nicer. Come up with a style for each one of the worlds. That would be nice. What's the Rabivania kind of layout style? What's the Theophany layout style? Come up with a system. I like systems. System to actually get these things done. So I realize, this is the world primer where everybody plays rabbits. So if you're all playing rabbits, there'd be no flying mount. So I removed the you can train a flying mount. And instead did add in that a knight of 5th level may choose one of the following combat talents. Moved this over from Carcass Crawler, which is you choose with cleave when in melee with multiple foes. If the knight strikes a killing blow, they may immediately make another attack against a second foe. The second attack roll is penalized at -2. Or defender, when the knight is in melee with a foe, any attack the foe makes at characters other than the knight are penalized at -2. Leader, mercenaries, or retainer under the knight's command within 60 feet gain +1 bonus to morale and loyalty. All the knight's allies within 60 feet gain a +1 bonus to saves against fear effects. Or Slayer, the knight gains +1 attack bonus and damage rolls when in combat with foes of a specific type. Or weapons specialist. Now, this cannot be like longbows. Chosen by your player. An expert with a specific type of weapon eligible for the knight to use. Chosen by the player. Do I need to make this a little bit larger for you? Let's see. Yeah, it's probably better right there. They gain a +1 bonus to attack rolls and damage rolls. If you're using the weapon proficiency rules, disallow that. So I added that rather than the flying mount. However, if we're doing in the full world book, if there's like an OSE full world book, then the knight becomes a class that's separate from your species. Then the only the other species that is allowed to take knight would be mouse, because there are a few mouse knights, which also, although they're played straight, because they're like the airborne of the world, and they do ride flying mounts. So they wouldn't ride foxes. The mice would ride hawks, and so that would be like some change up between this and maybe a full world book if you've got to be able to incorporate a mouse who can be a knight and who can ride a hawk. And that would also be a big deal. So they're like the airborne in the world, and they're used like air assault. Actually, they're more like air. They're like air assault. There are not very many of them in the lore. The mice some knights got a hold of the foxes and got a hold of the hawks and came into a battle and helped out the rabbits. And so the High King who was there knighted the 3 mice. And so that's why there is an order of knighthood for the mice. And if you see it, if you look in Good Night Sword, they live up in the tree. So that Elmhearth, where Good Night Sword takes place, has the mice. And there's a big round door. If you look in the Great Hall, there's a big round door in the Great Hall because they built the Great Hall underneath that cliff under the tree. And a lot of the windows of the Great Hall look out over the valley. But there's a big giant door that opens into nothingness basically when you open the door, but that's for the flying mouse knights to come in. So if they need to deliver a report directly to the Baron, they can open up that door to the valley, and then the mouse can park the hawk outside and step right into the Great Hall. So we'll have to figure out a way to do that. So this is just the rabbit knight, though. So otherwise, I think that was very much like the OSE knight, and I think that works pretty well. The druid we were looking at, and basically what I did is I started to pull OSE druid right here. I started to pull a lot of material from both the druid and the mage, because I really like the way the mage is. But I dumped all of the druid and the mage into here to work with. And so right now there's way too much in here. And I kind of see the mage is the one who's closest. But like we need things like the druid's ability, 1 in 6 of getting lost in the woods. That's pretty nice. I do like the staff is very significant. So adding in the staff. So this is one of those things we don't want too many options. Hey, good morning, Andrew. So, okay, let's go down to, so, this has got to be blended together better. So let's take a look at the witch. Okay, so here's what we say about the witch. And I found some people who had done pretty good write-ups, I think, for an OSE witch. And I found an old AD&D write-up for a witch that I think is really good. So this says, "Behold, in the starlight, out of the mists of the otherworld walked 3 beautiful does, the witch sisters Balb, Malka, and Aldana. The witches spoke of the moon and of the stars and shared secrets of the other world. They danced among the stones and cast their spells as Clovis and the druids watched." From the tales of Krieg and the Caproctony, as written by the anchorite of Willowgrove Locht. So witch. The witches are practitioners of an ancient religion said to have come into the world when the Morrigan and the witch sisters of her court passed into Rabivania from the other world, the land of Tir Duin, in the days of Clovis. Witchcraft is abhorrent to the Loch. Thus, most openly practicing witches will live in the more remote parts of the countryside where the Loch has less influence and the older ways still hold more sway over the rabbit life. Villagers who need guidance, charms of protection, or healing poultices will sometimes seek them out, leaving offerings at the entrances to their burrows. Sometimes even a knight may have no choice but to seek out and entreat with the dark witch doe of terrible power for a solution to his quest. The witches align themselves with the natural cycles of the earth, moon, and stars. They perceive time as an ever-turning wheel. Most of the rituals are centered on the phases of the moon and the changing seasons. Especially clerics of the Loch, attribute dark power to the witches, including communion with demonic spirits, hexing other rabbits in their lands, and casting the evil eye. A coven's practices involve ritualistic magic and herbalism with the local flora and fauna. Some of the witches claim to be skilled in divination and prophecy by reading stars, interpreting the flights of birds, or by the casting of runic stones. The witches do not have a formal organization. Instead, they have informal covens in which the practitioners are privately inducted. Covens vary in their number of members, but traditionally, the number is 9 witches, sometimes led by a 10th priestess. This structure echoes the witch sisters of the Morrigan's court, plus the Morrigan herself. Covens that grow much larger than this tend to divide into 2 or more covens, each of which may begin to grow in number again. Over the course of her life, a witch may have been a member of several different covens. Just as the Mirites look down upon the witches for what they regard as blasphemy, the witches look with equal disdain on the clerics of the Mirite faith and are especially suspicious of the damsels of the blood royal. They see the damsels as a coven that will not admit to its true nature, and the mages of the mist as a counterfeit Morrigan. Though witchcraft is distinct from Druidism, there are many similarities in their outlook and philosophies, given their shared animistic beliefs. Witchcraft is primarily a feminine practice, though there are a few practicing bucks. The bucks are called witches as well. So that's what I'm trying to represent here, and trying to do it in some way that, this for both. What did I do for 5th edition? I think I'm probably going to go back and revise some of the 5th edition stuff. I want to look at the spells that we're talking about. BGD was talking about that last time. Which ones really are appropriate for a 5th edition adaptation? We talked about that. They could be called warlocks, but isn't it more? Am I wrong in this thing? Isn't it more medieval for a witch to be referred to a ban as well? I remember having a discussion about that online. That what is the more medieval way for that to go? Is it to actually call them warlocks, or is it to call them witches? Like what is the etymology of the warlock? Google word usage. Maybe let's see. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. Let's just look up warlock. Male practitioner of witchcraft. Okay, so this says in early modern Scots, the world came to refer to the male equivalent of a witch, which can be male or female, but it's historically been used predominantly for females. The term may have become associated in Scotland with male witches, owing to the idea they had made pacts with Aud Hornai, the devil, and thus had betrayed Christian faith and broke forth their baptismal vows and oaths. So I don't know. BGD said, okay, so what does BGD say? I was wondering actually how I wrote that. I was like, because I hadn't read that in a while. I was like, did we go with warlock or do we stay with witch? There's room to tighten up the descriptions and lore presented here for each class while still retaining all the key points and immersive flavor. There probably is. Yes. I was noticing, especially as I was reading that one. I think there is. Better with Bacon says witch was applicable to men in Old English and possibly earlier in its Germanic roots. That's what I was able to find. So I think, on the other hand, people are probably expecting also for the word warlock to be there. In fact, what we could do is, why don't we go with the same thing that we did for the knight? Because here we said the knight, buck knights precede their name with sir to indicate their station. Does, when they have been dubbed knights, precede their name with either damsels or sir according to their preference. Why don't we do the same thing with witch and say these bucks are either called warlocks according to their preference. That probably works. Yeah, I think this one is too verbose. I think BGD is right. Could do that. Could always adopt an archaic spelling like WYCH, which you can treat as non-gendered. I think in the story, all the witches are women. But anyway, so I found somebody who had done, I think, a pretty good witch write-up. So this is the reference link, so I can go get all the references later. This person came up with a witch. Says, okay, prime requisites wisdom and int, hit die D4, maximum level 14. Now here we got leather armor instead of no armor, like with a magic, a straight magic user. Dagger and staff, I like that again. So, the magic users in this often, in the OSE, often just use the daggers. But I like having, like with the druid using a staff, I can see the sorceresses with them as well. So the witches, so staff and dagger. Probably not using alignment language. And common, now we did come up with some of the languages here. This is going to take several more passes here. But Lapine is the common language of Rabivania. That's the language the rabbits speak. We named the language of the raccoons Wasbir. Isn't that pronounced with a W? The rats Murine, with different dialects, one of which is Chitter, based on the rats. So there we go. So, excuse me, for talking about this would be Lapine. So this says that witches cannot memorize spells, but can use magic items and scrolls. Magical research, a witch of any level may spend time and money on magical research. This allows them to create wands, potions, and other magical effects associated with their coven. When a witch reaches 9th level, they are able to create magic items. Using magic items, witches can use magic scrolls or spells on the cleric or magic user spell list. And I'm going to have to go through it. I'm going to have to go through the OSE spell list as well for what's appropriate and what's not. Probably creating a new witch list. They can use their own items that can only be used. They can also use their own items that may only be used by divine or arcane spellcasters. Identification, witches can identify all plants and animals and can discern pure water. Now, I think I don't want that to be a duplicate from Druid. That kind of seems like a more Druidic kind of thing. So that one, I think, probably needs to be removed. BGD says you could also potentially save a ton of space by exploring a formless magic system, which uses tokens or power words in place of pre-written spells, and then mate that with Vancian resolution. Where do I learn more about that? I noticed that this actually right here has familiar, because we asked about the familiar. Somebody asked about the familiar on Sunday, and we came up with the idea of having like a cricket. And I thought, oh, so there needs to be a small, like maybe a table or something of cricket-like of familiars that are appropriate to a rabbit witch. So this is like cricket, etc. And I don't say come up with table. Hey, Lope. Yeah, I'm wondering where do we find out exactly more about that. But anyway, the idea that way this worked with the familiar, it says the witch may permanently give up a hit die to summon a familiar. This familiar comes in the form of an appropriate creature, with the hit die becoming its HP. The familiar conveys its sensory powers to its master and is much more intelligent than as usual for the animal, can converse with its master, and will serve as a guard, scout, spy as well. So I like that. Like the mage, this version of the witch set up powers, right? Because rather than spell casting. So, okay, I like this. Witches can use the following skills with a range of 30 feet, with the chance of success shown opposites. There's a table here. One is potion. Brew a potion to be consumed in 1d4 days. Common potions include healing, restoration, sleep, poison. This is their list, not mine. So this is just looking at what they came up with. Healing, restoration, sleep, poison, flight, polymorph, self, other, protection, invisibility. Requires the use of special equipment and ingredients which need not be foraged and are consumed which need to be foraged and are consumed with each attempt. So like flight is not going to work. Like that's obviously not going to be appropriate. Sleep, I can see, poison, that would work. Polymorph, self, probably not that one. Protection, invisibility, probably not going to work. If it's not going to work, I'm going to delete them. maybe there's some other ones that we can put in here. Now, polymorph self and polymorph other could work at another time in Rabivania. Protection, invisibility. Okay, healing, restoration, sleep, poison, protection. I'm just going to put other examples. Bless, allies gain +1. Let's see, Better with Bacon says, both World of Darkness mage games use a formless magic system. Players describe the effects they want to produce rather than directly read specific spells with specific results. The magic system I'm developing is formless but not bound. So do they do it well? Is that I have not read that. Oh, formless but bound. Is formless but bound. Okay, as I say, but honestly, the formlessness in Mage was a nightmare to handle the table, which seems to be the case. Like, what is the best example of a magic system like that that has actually is playable at the table? Describe the magical effect you're trying to create. Well, and then yeah, it's. I found that they're clunky. It can be. So Bless, allies gain +1 to attack and damage rolls for 1 round per level of the witch. May be used once per turn. May also be used to consecrate a space. Curse, the exact form and effects are determined by the caster. Maximum possible effects include a -2 penalty to saving throws, a -4 penalty to attack rolls, reducing an ability score by 50%. May be used once per turn. May also be used to desecrate a place. I mean, I like these kinds of spell things because they're not overt. And maybe they're real magic, maybe they're not. Maybe, especially some of these things could be psychological or whatever. Charm. Okay, the subject regards the witch as a close friend and will come to the witch's defense. If they share a language, the witch may give the charmed creature commands which they will obey. Duration as per spell. Afterwards, the subject knows they were charmed. May be used once per turn. Now you have to roll for these. They're not automatic. Well, we'll have to see what you end up with. We'll have to take a look at it on the show when it's ready. Read mind. The witch learns the thoughts of nearby creatures, gaining insights into their motivations, emotions, and something that looms large in their mind. May be used once per turn. This interesting, but needs to be vague senses. And then also, I do like divines. Actually, I mean, I like this interpretation of a Rabivania witch. Divine. The witch may roll a single d20 and record the number. They can replace any roll made by them or a creature they can see with one of these divining rolls. May be used once per day. I like that one. I like that one too. Coven. I also like this idea that 5th level witches may congregate to form a coven. Or coven. I think we said that it was coven. At least 2 other witches are required. This allows the performance of many more powerful spells. Such spells usually require rare ingredients, may only be performed at certain times, and often require at least several hours of ritual. May be attempted once per day. Example spells include control weather, raise dead, insect plague, create flood, summon demon, commune. Okay, check this list. But this, I would say, this is very Rabivanian. Instead of, fancy and immediate kinds of casting, getting people together to cast a spell. Dancing, so I even had that in the little flavor passage up here. The witches spoke of the moon, of the stars, and shared secrets of the other world. They danced among the stones and cast their spells as Clovis and the druids watched. So they're casting spells, but it's definitely a joint kind of activity right here. So this list potentially needs to be revised, but I like the idea that, hey, do you want to do like control weather? Like, again, is that something they actually had an effect on, or did it just happen to work out this time? Let the narrative be what it what it is, like summon demon isn't going to work. And raise dead is probably not going to work either. It might work earlier, an earlier time period when there's more magic. But I like that idea. So when I saw this, I was like, oh, I think this is a really good interpretation of witch. BGD says, White Hack is another common example of freeform RPG magic. The player declares an intention, and the GM determines the difficulty and scope of the effects if the cast is successful. We looked at White Hack. I might have to look at that one again, because I remember very little of it. This gives witch progression as cleric, and then you can either use the 1 in 6 system or a percentage chance system. And here are the different abilities that, as you go up in level, what you can do. BGD says there are aspects of your story lore that are less likely to translate well into an RPG rule set. If you tie all the witch's magic to coven rituals, a lone witch and adventuring party will be hamstrung. That's true. Well, but I mean, all of it is not. Because she's got these basically spell-like skills, right? And then once you get to 5th level, you got to get some others together, or maybe you could at times perform some of these with a druid. But you're right. I mean, we've been talking about this quite a bit. That it's storytelling in multiple media, but then also even when the medium is RPG, tabletop RPG, it requires a bunch of different, and for different rule set interpretations. It's only the interpretation that's best according to that rule set, and they can only be that. Let's see. So I think that's pretty neat. I did also find a pretty seriously cool witch write-up, which was from Dragon Magazine. BGD said, may be helpful to relax certain aspects and then add in lore consistent bonuses featuring under propitious circumstances like a witch party. That could be a good way to go. So let's look over here. It's been a long time since I've looked at an old Dragon magazine. When was this? This is Dragon Magazine. I'm going to pull it up on the screen here. Oh. Because I was looking for witch interpretations that are something other than just the obvious and probably most direct for, hey, this is the magic user, build a magic user, and then say witch. So this is Dragon 114, and this one has the witch in it. There were several with the witch, but this was like the witch in its final form. I noticed that, look at that. There's a Citadel advertisement in Dragon. Check that out. So this is October of 1986. It's got, here's the special attraction is the witch. Other features include the Elven Cavalier, a special outlook of a special character. It might be fun to look at, well, it's a hit, but where? How to battle monsters with varying armor classes. It might be fun to look at other things that are in different Dragon magazines. But let's look down and oh, you know, I thought I just passed by this. We're going to Witch, but I saw this. This is 2nd edition right here. Somebody wrote in to, I mean, this seems like a common problem. I mean, this is something that could be written today, right? So somebody wrote into Dragon Magazine regarding second edition. Dear Dragon, I'm deeply concerned about the future of the AD&D game. What about those of us who have spent $100 plus to get where we are with first edition? Will they mesh together? I mean, will I be able to use the new DM's guide with the old player's manual? If not, what can a devout first editioner do? Will you have to have a way for us to trade our old books in for credit? Will you continue to publish first edition books or supplements? That's by Gil Cooper in Powhatan, Virginia. And actually, Zeb Cook wrote in to reply to what second edition is. Oh, BGD says, I remember reading this issue. It had top secret espionage adventure design article. Yeah, as I was passing by in the table of contents, I saw that top secret was in here. So, so Zeb Cook writes in. So I thought, oh, this is cool. I mean, this is also a very dense magazine. I mean, oh, Chaosium has an ad in here. Oh, for Pendragon. But let's see. Okay, so what was their interpretation of which? So here is the Witch. The Witch has long been a popular non-player character in the D&D and AD&D games. And longtime readers of Dragon Magazine may recall numerous incarnations of this character class and its powers over the years. The most recently published version of the Witch appeared in issue 43 in 1980. It must be noted the Witch is a very powerful spellcaster. It can conceivably be used as a player character on an experimental basis, but it works best as an NPC to challenge parties of adventurers on a long-term basis. The class has deliberately been given extraordinarily spellcasting powers in terms of number of spells available and the power of individual spells. Player character witches may prove to be overwhelming, but the NPC witches are thus better able to challenge large groups of adventurers. The decidedly evil nature of the witch, as a rule, is also a point against the use as a player character class. Oh, happy Halloween. So, okay, revised and expanded NPC class. And there's a lot here. How are we doing on time? Okay. So we got, bonus spells for intelligence right here. Witches with above average intelligence receive bonus spells. Variable amounts of money. I thought this was interesting. Witches start out in the world with a variable amount of money depending on how well they are liked by their deities. Multiply a witch's charisma score by 10 and add a variable amount from 2 to 20 to find the number of gold pieces given to a first level witch through a servant of her deity. Thereafter, witches tend to accumulate numerous useful magic treasures. So the amount of gold has to do with charisma. Andrew says, I can only think of Wizard of Oz. Are you a good witch or a bad witch? Followers, hirelings, and apprentices. Okay. So high secret orders. Each major deity worshipped by witches maintains a formal organization of the most powerful witches in a certain area. This organization is usually known as the High Secret Order. High secret orders may have members scattered over an entire world or across a small country as the situation permits. Orders that have been decimated by magical wars or which are just starting out may have been highly localized. High secret orders serving different deities and causes have been known to attack one another in dreadful battles involving attacks by extraplanar creatures and the use of awful spells, though surprisingly, such orders are rarely warlike. Even members of diametrically opposed orders prefer to oppose each other in more subtle manners, weaving complex plots and spreading their influence against one another in generations-long dances of rivalry and power. Kings, high priests, archmages, arid dragons may be drawn into these conflicts, serving as pawns of the greater game. So at 10th level, you can decide to apply for membership in a high secret order. The witch must also possess at least one of the following objects: a magical crystal ball, any magical non-cursed broom, a mirror of mental prowess, a mirror of life trapping, or one of these objects depending on alignment. Librum of silver magic if good, librum of gain conjuration if neutral, librum of ineffable damnation if evil. And then you're bound to serving a deity. Okay, so witch's special abilities. This is more what I was interested in. So these are like spell-like powers. So this one had brew potions and narcotics at 3rd level. An evil witch can brew 1 dose of either a poison or a narcotic each day, provided she has the necessary ingredients. The mixtures cannot be used to coat weapons and must be ingested by intended victims. A witch learns how to brew type A ingestive potions at 3rd level. She learns how to brew an additional type of ingestive potion for every 2 levels she progresses beyond 3rd level. Thus, an 11th level witch can brew type E poison. Saving throws are applicable. Our narcotic has the effect of a sleep spell on a victim with 8 HP or less if the saving throw has failed. A victim with 9 to 16 HP is reduced to half dexterity and half normal movement, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that we've got over here. Okay, brew potions. That is also over here. Healing. We didn't have learning different types over here, but there's a chance to roll. Healing, restoration, sleep, poison, maybe protection. Oh, Bacon says, I don't like witches serving a deity. They represent the old ways, naturalism, animism, not deism. And that's the way we've got them in Rabivania here. See, traditionally, I think they are known for their skill to augur future events, which seems more NPC than player, but I guess the GM could give them vague hints of the future. Well, so, I like that. I agree. And that's why I kind of liked this interpretation of witch, that I found, that I was just reading, that does have divine and allows them to replace a D20 roll once a day. And that's kind of like a nod to the augury ability. Is there spell index? I'm in the index of spells. Acid, animate, dead. I don't see augury in this OSE book, which doesn't mean that it's not something like it is not in here. But I don't immediately see it. Let me look at. Well, right here. How is that handled in AD&D? I remember the augury spell. I think that's cleric. Second level. I don't like the way the spells are organized in AD&D. They're not alphabetical. They're organized by level. Wizard, priest, here we go. So, like augury, a priest casting the augury spell seeks to define whether an action in the immediate future within half an hour will benefit or harm the party. For example, if a party is considering the destruction of a weird seal that closes a portal, well, don't do that. You probably don't need to cast a magic spell for that. The augury spell can be used to find if weal or woe will result from the immediate result. Will be the immediate result. If the spell is successful, the DM yields some indication of the probable outcome, weal, woe, or possibly a cryptic puzzle or rhyme. The base chance for receiving a meaningful reply is 70% plus 1% for each level of the priest casting the spell. So bringing forward something like that could also bring a witch's augury ability. Oh, let's go back over here. So potion brewing, that one seems to be, and that also seems to work. Also in the second, that's actually a core quest focus of the second Clovis book, which is written but needs to be rewritten. A character has to go and find the Queen of Witches in order to get a potion brewed for him. So potion brewing, that definitely works here. Brew truth drug. So this is at 4th level. A witch may brew 1 dose of truth drug per week. A victim who ingests a dose of the drug and fails a save versus poison falls into a stupor and is forced to answer 1d4 questions truthfully. The truth drug can only affect an individual of equal or lower experience level, and then the witch who brewed the potion. The stupor, which reduces movement and strength by half, lasts 2d12 turns. I think that one's interesting, but possibly for an earlier one. Maybe for rabbits, they can divine the future in tea leaves as opposed to sacrificial animal entrails. I think I have, in one case, they're watching a flight of birds. The witches are doing that. Yeah, tea leaves, casting stones, casting sticks. In fact, one time, maybe she grabs some sticks or something and does a dance around some sticks as she casts them. But yeah, maybe the entrail butchery, the butchery and yanking entrails out. Maybe that doesn't work quite as well here. Brew love potion. The witch can brew 1 special form of filter of love per week. All of the effects of the usual potion, except the victim is affected only by the witch, and the victim gains -4 to saving throws against being charmed. Okay, like that. Manufacture potions and scrolls. At this level, the witch may... I really like this write-up here. This Dragon magazine here is hardcore in a way that a lot of things today are not. So I really like going back, okay, what does this witch write up? This is a serious write-up here. Manufacture potions and scrolls. It gives me a feeling that it is like exactly opposite of what I get when reading 5th edition. So at 6th level, they may make the potions listed in the player's handbook in Unearthed Arcana without the help of an alchemist. The candle magic here is rather extensive. At 7th level, you get candle magic. For each 3 days spent making the candle burns for 1 turn up to a maximum of 9 turns for a candle that took 27 days to make. And you've got these colored candles here, like a red candle. The victim is affected as if by a filter of love with a duration of 1 day for each turn of burning. Blue candle, 9th level, protection from evil or good. Purple candle acts as a truth drug. Yellow candle is telepathy. The witch is able to read victims' minds and communicate with them. Gold candle is curing damage. Black candle is cursing a victim. At 9th, druid, magic user, and illusionist scrolls become available to her. This does actually look kind of more like a 5e kind of level with like the special abilities over here. And then 10th level, acquire familiar. This power is similar to the magic user's 1st level find familiar spell, except there's no chance of not acquiring familiar. Witches' familiars are quite powerful. The witch adds, I even like this art over here. The witch adds its hit points to the familiar adds its hit points to the witches, but if the familiar dies, the witch only loses the hit points the familiar originally added, not double the number. Familiars as tough as the witches are difficult to locate. If a familiar dies, a witch must wait from 3 to 18 years to acquire another. Familiars are usually given bizarre names by their mistress, such as puns, nonsense words, or anagrams of other names. This says the witch's familiar is capable of human speech, has high intelligence, and is considered considerably clever. Possession of a familiar gifts the witch with the abilities given by a pearl of power. I'm not sure what that is. Telepathic bond within a 12-foot radius. Andrew says, I am less into them doing scrolls, more like potions and charms. Scrolls feels more cleric and regular magic user to me too. Yeah, I agree. And in fact, as I'm working back here, that's one of actually something I also don't like about the druid that's based on the mage. Okay, the druid can use the scrolls. And reading magic habitually using a scroll doesn't necessarily bother me, but having the druid create scrolls doesn't seem to work for me because they're not supposed to. I mean, traditionally, they don't write things down. Like their own stuff, they don't write down. So I was wondering if there was some other way that we could handle that with the druid. That, yeah, he's learned enough to, if he finds somebody else's scroll, he can use that. But like, he's not going to make his own because he doesn't write things down. Joel says, how does a witch convince one to ingest a brew that would be detrimental to the consumer? Well, I don't think they know, right? So, I mean, it would be like something that's in their wine or something, right? I mean, that's how I would do it. One thing to consider across all Rabivania classes is the extent you want to support level progression for conversions to system that use them. You don't have to go all the way to the highest levels. Right, yes. And well, and that's what I was in the world primer for that reason, at least part of that reason, I only went up to 5th level in 5th for 5e. So I thought maybe, just going to 5th level for any one of these might be a reasonable way to do it. But on the other hand, like especially for 5th edition where a class has so much stuff. I mean, this is a lot of stuff right here, but it's kind of a special kind of thing. But an OSE class doesn't have as much, as much stuff to it. Manufacture magical items at 12th. Brew flying ointment at 13th. Manufacture control. I mean, I thought this was, I hadn't thought about this one. I thought, oh, manufacture control doll. Once per week, a witch can make one clay or wax doll, which she can use to control one character or monster. Dolls are made to fit general categories: a man, a woman, a troll, a dragon. For the doll to function as desired, a part of the specific target, a nail clipping, a lock of hair, a bit of the outer skin or scales, etc., must be made part of the doll. Once the specific material is added, the doll acquires a focus. The doll must now be shown to the intended victim. If the intended victim fails to save versus spell, the victim is charmed. The charm lasts as long as the doll is intact and in the witch's possession. If the witch loses the doll or the doll is destroyed or damaged, the spell is broken. So that's not like a remote damage spell. That one's another way for them to charm, of her to charm people. Dice Tales says, make druid scrolls runes that are carved into a rock or a tree. They're only usable at a particular site. Could they be reusable then? Like, I need to be able to cast this spell, so I need to go to this particular tree that has the runes carved in them. That sounds kind of neat. You can make note of that over here. Note, I'm going to put note over here. Move creating scrolls, and could instead have magic sites like carve runes into rocks or trees. etc. Maybe they fade after a number of uses, and certainly have recharge times. Could have recharge times too. BGD says 5th level class feature descriptions in 5e are like 50th level class feature descriptions in some other games. It's a ridiculous amount of stuff for something that's not a large format big book. I agree. And that we talked about that in the very beginning in the comment section about 5th edition players having to keep up with so much stuff that slows the game down. So lighter is a bit better. Like arguably, perhaps the fighter is a bit too light. But yeah, I agree. Oh, so let me go over here. So, okay, I had not even thought about some type of like the voodoo doll. Manufacture permanent magic items that's creating items that do not require recharging. Fascination. The power of fascination may be used once per day at 17th level. A witch merely has to concentrate to exert this power. Any individual who merely looks at the witch and fails to save versus spells faithfully serves the witch as long as the fascination lasts, a number of turns equal to the level of the witch. Service while fascinated is nearly absolute, stopping just short of following suicidal orders. The power is unrelated to the second level illusionist spell, Fascinate. At 20th level, the witch ages only 1/10 the normal rate for her racial type. 21st level, limited wish. Shape change at 22nd level. And I like I'm calling it the main timeline, the 12th century timeline. Shape change, I don't think works for the witches, but it does make sense in the Clovician era. And so actually one of the things that I started to do was copy some material over from this. That's like, okay, wait, this is appropriate for a witch or another character when there is much more magic in the world, to do a couple of different versions of them. Because if there was the Clovis, unfortunately, I kind of have a whole nother world in having the Clovician era being like heroic Celtic warriors, where there is more magic. So the witch would also be in that book, but the witch needs to be different. The witch can be powered up. There can be a lot more magic in here because there's more magic in those stories. You're talking about an actual, in-universe myth in Rabivania, where they have more magical powers, and the Queen of Witches does transform into a crow. So the ability to transform into an animal is something that a witch has at an earlier time. So I can see doing a few different variations of these. Doing a variation of these characters in a different time when, here's the high magic version of them and here's the low magic version of them. Where does that actually sit? So the druid's shape shifting ability needs to be given to the high magic witches. Andrew says there are also two types of familiars. One is where the magic user enchants it, but I enjoy the ones where the familiar itself is magical. Think Lovecraft's Brown Jenkins or Clark Ashton Smith's Sorcerer Malgiris had a coral viper that was very powerful magic. Can't remember his name. And when the familiar itself is magic, that sounds like the more higher magic side of that. I never had the witches with a familiar. I need to add in a witch with a familiar into like the stories of Clovis. That's too good to not have. So I think, we'll need to have that. And that, if it's some kind of creature that comes from the other world. And sometimes that might even be like a warlock kind of thing too. Warlock by like the 5th edition kind of packed with a creature kind of way to go. What else do we say here with these witches? So shape change, general notes on spells, material components. This is an extensive write-up in this book, but I guess that's basically it. So I was looking at, so what type of things are their powers? So I wouldn't surprise me if that other OSE witch write-up was kind of inspired by this, because I see some of the same kinds of things. We didn't end up with like a voodoo doll, and I had never written anything like that. But I think I want to create some of these, take some of these more powerful things and put them on the older style witch. So there's a lot of work to do here. We didn't even get to damsel. So that was just my thinking about what's going on with a witch. Of course, we did look a little bit at the damsel last time. Nope. Oh yeah, but we didn't really get to an OSE damsel. We just talked about the different kinds of things that are here. I know. That was such a great magazine. I mean, I like a lot of the old style stuff. I mean, because I was thinking about that in terms of White Dwarf. I really used to like the White Dwarf magazines, but it seems like everything ends up reducing the amount of material in it. You know, White Dwarf magazine, I did eventually just stopped buying because there were basically no articles in it. You know, it was just pictures of the, you know, the miniatures with just minimal information about like paint schemes instead of in-depth painting articles and stuff like that. So, you know, it's like when you go back and you look at something like that witch write-up, it's like, you know, with all the drawings and the really detailed information, it's like, man, yeah, you had to be subscribing to Dragon. Like that was an essential component to that. Okay, so all right, so that's what I was thinking about. The witches are all really neat to me, and so I like that right up. There's more massaging to be done, and BG's right. There's editing to be done as well. But this project is going along here, and it would be great. I think it would be neat to be able to do the Celtic version as well, especially if I become more proficient with InDesign and get these able to get these books out. Okay, I'm going to go do some work here, working on the cultist stuff for several hours this afternoon. I know that James Bacon has a live stream this afternoon talking about the safety tools like the X card with jacks. So if you're not subscribed to James Bacon's channel, I think that's at like 3 Central or something like that. So subscribe over there. There'll be a conversation on his channel. Then tonight, I will put out the thumbnail to do a painting session tonight and watching the cultists, and we'll have a creative session, and that'll be fun. So a lot of live streaming going on today, a lot of streaming, a lot of places to hang out. So I hope to see everybody on James's Bacon stream and then on my stream tonight. Later, everybody. Have a wonderful day.